everything would be very good with the future if the main rule was not to be afraid of the future. But we do not know what future holds for us, and that is why we might be afraid of something, might build up to something, and that is why we would like to close the KIEF International Economic Forum with this panel, the creators of future. Because when the world was created, the creator was only reserved for gods. But when the people started to build the roads, states and cities, when we started to explore the air and the skies, well, do you agree that the man has turned into the competitor to God? And the man started to create the competitors like this, like we can't robot Sophia, because if you don't know, she's just retranslating the sound, but there were two guys that sit close to her and answering the questions. Maybe you haven't thought about it yet, but the future we're living in currently, for the writers who write sci-fi, it was just 50 years ago, just a imagination creation. 20 years ago, if you remember, the Total Recall heroes have already got into this reality, but a lot of things have already been created. Like Arthur Clarke has written about the satellites of the sound. Oxenford Hart has written about the robot technologies. And we mentioned The Brave New World that was written in 1932. And when we were creating the world of the genetic engineering, and it was super terrifying, the people were afraid of those books. But currently, we live in this reality, and it's not that frightening. And today, you do not have to be the sci-fi writer. You can only just be an entrepreneur. You can be an entrepreneur. You can have to be just an imaginative person to create the reality. But with every second of our reality, we're building up the bridge to the future. And today in this room, we have the creators and thus the gods. But I'm going to ask to join me at the panel only 4 of our creators, the one that we can learn from. So please welcome Ilya Laurs, the head of the Venturing Fund. He is investing into startup and the different stages. Please, Ilya, come to us, join us. You also should know that Ilya is in the list of top 25 high-tech leaders of Europe. He is also one of the top 40, the most influential players in the telecommunication markets. An interesting person. We will listen to him closely. I would like to invite me to join me at the stage, Petro Polipiuk. Please welcome the co-owner and the CEO of Modern Expo Group. This is the global producer and global supplier for the complex solution for retail. Please welcome. Also, please welcome Yevgeny Utkin. He's not in top 40 high-tech speakers of Europe, but for 40 years he has been involved in the high-tech industry, and he has created a lot of things that none of us can reach, and none person in the world can reach. Yevgeny, we're glad to have you here with us. And he also have 4 kids. And of course, please welcome Vasyl Khmelnytsky, the founder of the U Future Investment Group. And by the way, Vasily, not to make an additional advertisement, but Unit City, actually what we've seen all around here, but in 250, the smart houses, in 1950, this Ray Bradbury has written about the smart houses, and we thought it wasn't impossible. But we will soon have the Unit City, and this is reality already. So just imagine what cool it is, not to know how to write, but to know how to create future. That is why our panel is not going to be a very long one. I will only have a couple of questions and an hour and a half. That's going to be branching as our reality, as our sphere. But if we speak today about the future, and by the way, Vasily has already been asked by this question by the BBC journalist. Vasily, can you describe the future in 10 months? And Vasily said, no, in 6 months we will have the elections. Thus, no one knows what the future holds for Ukraine in 10 months. But still, briefly, 2 minutes each of you, please, your vision of the future, the vision of the future of your world, and as far as you are the creators, what does your world look like? So, Ilya, we will start with you. You know, we can think about the future in many different levels, and we can think about how the life of the human will look like, how of the state of the company will look like in future. What we can say that we cannot forecast precisely, and I would like to use the singularity term. I know that maybe a lot of you have already heard about the University of Singularity in California, and a lot of people from our region, and I mean in the post-Soviet space, go to this university. There is one moment that the history is never linear. We have the quantum leaps when the gameplay changes dramatically, and depending on what is the speed of the technology development, how the technology is getting accelerated in 2030, 2040, there will something happen with the humankind that will dramatically, critically change everything. But this moment is not even forecastable. So Hawking's, Elon Musk, the other scientists in the Singularity University try to forecast and presume what the life will look like if every single aspect of human action, every single detail, starting from the state governance, starting to the selling of the ice cream in the kiosk, the robot can do it in 1,000 more times effectively. The person is free out of everyday course, and it's not going to happen in 100 years, but it's going to happen in 20. So asking the question, how is going to be, what is going to happen, so trying to forecast it and trying to answer the question is the task for everyone, not only for the visionaries. Then small other question, in the Forbes, the automation in your future had the article with this title, Future Now, and the author of this article is now speaking about the so-called digital evolution and revolution, that all of the dull work is now done by the algorithm. The work that is usually being done badly by future is better given to the computers and robots, but still under this evolution the person cannot cope with it. And what we should do with the lack of the competent and expert workers, how should we train them? How do the companies cope with that? You know, it's a rhetorical question. Some time ago, people in humanity have understood that we're not the strongest. Like, tractor is much powerful than the truck. The train is physically more strengthful and powerful than the human is. And at some point, well, it is people have thought that they're the most creative and the smartest. But in 2017, despite a lot of buts, but we are now living in this dramatic moment when the human, the man, is not at all the wisest and the most creative. The music that has been created in 2018, the person who doesn't know, the music that was created by the machine is even better than the music that was created by a man. So to think that the only human have this creative and intellectual capacities is a bit of a dangerous assumption. And another step that we can take, that on the level of the companies, on the corporate level, if from the third industrial revolution to fourth industrial revolution, the labor was saved by the competences and qualification, then after the fourth industrial revolution, it's not the given fact. It's not the gospel truth. Now, what the person can think of is something that the person can think about to get into. So 7 billion of people are now getting into profession. What they have to do, whether it's a profession of choice, whether my attention, my brain is not taken with something interesting that is going to be my deal. If I will create the world around myself and it's going to be the dull world, this is the dull world I will have to live around. And we were now speaking about the capital. A lot of things can be created without me. So getting back to the individuality, if we'll not develop inside the fantasy of how I would like to live, then I will not create this world. You know, you're really you can do the sci-fi writing. You know, if I wish that everyone had thought about it, everything that I will create will be my future. Piotr, what do you think about it? And maybe give us a little bit of information about what you're doing. Well, I do hope that the Modern Expo Group is not really known for you, because basically we are creating the product that you see every day. You see them every day. You don't even know that they have been created in Ukraine. It doesn't matter where you see them, in Poland, in Germany, wherever. We are producing the complex solutions for the retail. So the hardware like cashier desk, like all of the shelves, refrigerators, everything that helps retail to sell. Moreover, the last mile, the postomats, all of the warehouse solutions, everything that helps retailer to be successful. So If we speak today of how I see the future, then I will start with a global range. I am a very strong optimist in this, and usually was helped with it by my life. I do believe that in 20 years everything's going to be okay with the humankind. So the humankind will not get into war, into a global war, but finally we will find a way to stop the global climate change. And we will still continue be dealing with the global complex retail solutions. But if we speak on retail, currently we are the participants of a very deep discussion, a very thorough discussion in our sphere. Because of the development of the online technologies, we see on what fast pace it is developed, 20%, 30% of growth. Even though when the simple offline retail, the simple shops are now showing only 2 or 3%, and this is the record for that. And the question is whether the people are going to go to the shops in the future. How do you believe? What do you believe? That's a very interesting question. And the owners of the retail and trade networks are asking whether they should close the shops already, whether they should just change something. So I can give a forecast for these people. Do not worry, my friends. In the future, retail will still be alive. We won't have the offline retail, online retail will be just one single ecosystem in the future, when you'll be able to receive the goods on a very fast pace directly to your house. And if we can have this brave imagining, so like with the help of Hyperloop, you will have your parcel delivered from America in hours, or with the help with a special infrastructure that isn't like Hyperloop. From the delivering center, it will be delivered to your apartment in 5 or 7 minutes. And we can just imagine, like, when we made the shops for, the people will go to the shops just to get the emotions, just to get the experience. The shops will turn into the theater-like, performance-like spaces, a social space. You will go there to learn something new. Just imagine the shop that can change its specificity every week on a weekly basis. Just imagine that with the help of the technologies of the VR or AR, you can create the atmosphere of some specific countries. And, for example, represent Japan in this space. You enter into this space, you travel around, you see the images, you see the immersive reality, the taste, the smell, the goods. You can participate in the workshop of a super cool sushi chef. And then you can eat it, buy it, go back to your house. And in the day of, this shop will be extended. And with the help of the modern technologies that we're currently developing, it will be turned into the super playground, and you can come and join your kids to play a virtual reality game when you'll be shooting, I don't know, aliens, for example. And this is something that will happen in the shops of the future. But Peter, just a small question, because whether you were thinking about it when we were discussing the moment of your picture of the future before we discussed it before the panel, you haven't mentioned all of it. Well, to be honest, I was just like imagining, but not now. But this is not a real picture. You know, I've even got my breath a while when you were talking about it. You know, guys, we are for 24 years in the business, so we grew out of the very primitive technologies in the small garage to 3 big industries where we have 3,000 people working. When we represent the goods and we sell our goods and services to the many countries of the world. But the question is, what's going to happen in the future? Whether we will have the cashier desk, but we provide the cashier boxes. So what should we do? We think of how should we change? What is the change that has to happen, and how to get our future faster? We don't want to wake up in the future. We want to set the trends, but not just to follow the trends. Thank you very much. A round of applause for Peter. And you've loaded the bridge to the next picture of the future. Yevgen Utkin, and I would like to ask you the question whether we need the cashier desks. Remember the story when Motorola and Nokia were fighting for the flip telephone. So they were fighting for the best flips, but then we got the smartphones breaking the phones. Remember when Fuji and Kodak, they wanted to dominate in the film market, but then out of sudden we have the digital photo and digital video in place. Whether something like this happened in your life where you haven't seen before your eyes, like the new technology coming up, but you're struggling to keep on fighting for something old to dominate in this field. Whether it ever happened to you? You know, when something that you have described this as the picture of the time we're living, unfortunately, we have given this hot water, and thus everything has changed in Ukrainian mentality. When we didn't have the hot water event in Kiev, we didn't have it for the last 3 months. The municipal hot water, we used to have a lot of more ideas coming when we didn't have the hot water in place. Because everything that has been happening for the recent 10 years, and Ilya has mentioned it about the quantum leaps, and this is something that is happening. We have this disruptive technologies. 10 years ago, we've been living in some framework, and now we're trying to think out of the box. And unfortunately, someone is now trying to get our country in some kind of a 19th century frame. The frame is now breaking apart. There's something that is happening in the world. So I believe we live in the right place, in the right time. And Vasily, thank you very much for this platform and the other platforms that you do, because we have this possibility to think out of the box, to talk out of the box about the future. And everything that Peter has described, like 10 years ago, I have seen in Finland, in Helsinki. So I have seen a thing like that in one of the districts in Helsinki. That was already there. It was delivered like this. So the world is now running into the future. The world is already in the future now. This is something that happens now. So if we speak about the future, I believe that this break of the frame, this break of the box is something that is important for me. And I was used to do gymnastics, and we had this free program and we had the obligatory program in place, and all of these figures that we should have done in gymnastics, that was all just the same. It was all very homogeneous. If you take a look at everything that is being done in this sphere, it's absolutely unimaginable. So people have no limits. People have no borders. The person have made a jump out of stratosphere. They have jumped without the parachute and have landed into some kind of hammock. It's everywhere around us. It used to be in the technologies. The technologies used to be changing, but now it's done everywhere. The technologies are everywhere. They're widespread. They're like air. And we have the new approaches, new business models emerging. We used to vote. We used to get the taxi by just by picking up our hand and the car that stopped. But somehow in San Francisco we had another company like Uber starting, and they make it more comfortable for us. And we were resting in Crimea, then we had the Airbnb, and they started a different model. Why? Because they was thinking out of the frame, out of the box. And this thinking out of the box is something that is the most important thing. And Ukraine has a very important advantage in this. And I have another template for that. But you can actually describe some kind of a country where you have, like, say, okay, then I will then turn to conversation about the future. I would like to continue it by saying, because I've caught the wave. Well, please, just keep an eye for Milinsky for not starting to over-talking you. Now, Vasily is here as a very tolerant person. He actually creates the spaces for people like we are, for the people who can actualize their potential in here. But business about business. Now we are turning the approach to business models. What used to be business? Well, you are working hard in some place, you make money some way, and you earn money. And you earn this money, and you understand that this money are just the general mediation between you and the implementation of your artistic potential. So the money is some kind of applause. So people applaud and you get some money for that. So Mark Zuckerberg, he goes to another point, like the most important thing, the best invention of Facebook. And we had the new social engineering in place. And I would like to say that in future we will have no money, because without these intermediaries that help us to get this money, to do something with this money, and they take some commission out of us. This is an important moment. Something that the person does is going to turn into a different moment. So how is going to be happening? It will be in the implementation of the human potential. For the people doing something, it will be like the person who gets some of the power. The next business model, the next big thing that is going to appear in the planet Earth after Facebook that has 2.5 billion of population in Facebook, after Apple, that's going to be on the intersection of this new paradigms. So I see the future as this, and I see strongly big potential here in Ukraine for the further development and in Kiev. Thank you, Evgeny, but you have, round of applause for Evgeny. You mentioned Uber. You mentioned Uber, but if we once again transfer it to Ukrainian company, why it happens in Ukraine that you put a pinpoint in Ukraine, the driver cannot reach you 15 minutes, and they say like, it took me the other way. So that is why the question next for Vasily Khmelnytsky, who at one of the panels yesterday has mentioned, if you have incompetent team, the team that is not ready to study, non-professional company, then you will lose no matter how much money you invest. But Vasily, question to you. How should we create those competitive and competent teams to create the future with them? Well, first of all, Evgeny has said, expressed gratitude for the forum, and I would like to express my gratitude to Evgeny and all of you for joining me at this forum, because it's not about the organizers to create the forum. The forum is created by the people who come to the forum. So thank you very much to all of the people who joined us here, all of the businessmen, all of the entrepreneurs who joined us here. And our platform has been created for all of us to communicate with one another, to make you even more successful. What can we say about the future? You know, I'm asking the same question to myself all the time. What is the future that is going to us? I even bought the book, What's Next? But I do believe that this author who makes the forecast, because, you know, he doesn't know the future, he was only forecasting. But I do believe that you want to hear some kind of a technology that is going to be very demanding, very in time in 20 years. But even if I knew what kind of technology is going to be, I will not tell you. And I will give you an example. A year ago, the Unit Factory, we have the university that prepares the young talents. A guy stands up and he said, Vasily, you know, you're speaking about the future. So please tell us, Bitcoin will grow or fall? Should we buy Bitcoin or no? And but just think about me, and I would say, like, buy, it will grow. Well, imagine what was the responsibility that we took. Okay, it grew, but then fell, it increased, but then decreased. The technologies, they grow and fall. And in 20 years, we will see thousands of technologies. And the most important thing and the biggest problem currently is to create the team that will understand the trends, that is self-educated and is agile and flexible, and then can catch the technologies that are important and relevant, and then change it, shift it to other technologies, and swiftly and agile, and to be that agile to move forward. So the main moment is to create the teams that are going to be trainable, educatable. We are constantly going to be competitive with the technologies, and we're going to have to adapt to it. But there's one more trend that I want to outline, and I do believe that you will outline it also. We have 600 or 500 people in the room, experienced, wise, smart, professional people with the average age of 40. But we don't have young people, not a lot of young people. Take a look around. We don't have a lot of young people. We have some young people in the room, but not that much. You know why? Because the young people are different. They think in a different way. They buy in a different way. They communicate in a different way. And however wise we are, however experienced we are, we have to learn from them. We have to study from them, how they consume, how they buy. Otherwise, we will produce the watches that no one wears, only us. And sometimes we will follow our goals. And temporarily, we will be effective. in what we do. Like even with my experience, I should have get back to the desk and learn from the younger generation to learn how they think, how they see the world, how they buy. And I believe that in future we're gonna have to do it more and more frequently, because it's not just the world space that is fast, it's accelerating, it's getting more and more speed. So if you would like to be successful, use the new technologies, create the most powerful team that you can. Learn yourself, educate yourself, work with self-education and self-learning. Do the best examples. Go ahead, fail, and stand up and do it once again. Please prepare your questions. In 10 minutes, you will have the opportunity to ask all of the questions that you have. We will have some specific questions. There's the 2 blocks, but please do not present your ideas in order to sell them, in order to Utkin or the other people to buy it, for them to invest the money into you. Sometimes it happens, but then again, another question that arises, the different questions to you. And the question is like this. The people came here to understand the toolkits, but Vasily has said we won't give you the technologies and toolkits because I cannot promise you it will work. But then again, summing up the first block of our discussion, we understand that this out-of-the-frame thinking, professional team, imagination, singularity, that is something that is needed to be in place. And we are still dealing with this fantastic writing. And this is the main point as the jump into reality. If we speak about the risks of creating the watches that the young people will never buy, and Evgeny has mentioned this likes, the person that gets its like, it's the new monetization is the like. Just recently we had the aircraft company article, and the Google is already given the advice of the people where to buy cheaper of the so-called delayed flights. Google is now working on the app that will offer you delayed flight based on the delayed flight histories and the forecasting, and the people will actually trust Google more. This is the client-orientedness. And what do we get with this client-orientedness? Yes, you, Ilya. So please, and have you been? You must have been a little bit overtaken. I'm just trying to figure out where it's going to take us. What can I say? Trying to understand, trying to figure out in what segments, what will lead us where. This is a pleasant and fun thing, but on the other hand, a question: what can we practically do with this? Just a couple of statements. The first moment, in real time, you start to understand what is going on, and you start to understand that everything that you knew before is irrelevant. So you have to study real time. And if we speak about practically, then your investment into self-education today, this moment, it would actually 20% of your time has to be spent on understanding how it works in my profession, how it works in the world, with what tools the person can learn to use. How can we use it, whether this is artificial intelligence or whether this is technologies for the artificial language recognition. So we're coming up to another point. Forget everything that you knew before. Check the world in real time, learn in real time, because the blogs, the conversation, the universities, the educational programs, they're already outdated, they're obsolete. And either you invest it into this skill and you invest in it and you understand that you're lagging behind already. I'm not actually investing, I'm not inventing the bicycle right now and inviting the wheel. But you have to spend 1/5 of your time for the observation and education. That's okay, in what spheres to move forward? If we speak about you as a person that invests in startup at the early stages, what are the main directions of the reality and future people come with to you? So the people offer you something. These are the young people who are not using the watches. So they want to replace the state and public systems. They want to resolve ecological problems, economic problems. Maybe, I don't know, some of the people are very anarchic believers, because when we have discussed it with Ilya, he said that they've had a startup that would resolve the traffic situations. Absolutely. When I follow the situation on Ukrainian roads, and we have more people dying in traffic emergency, in traffic catastrophes than in other countries. Okay, maybe I can list out a couple of directions that dramatically changed the world. For example, in 2018, 2017, 2018, Vasily has mentioned Bitcoin. and we're speaking about the crypto economics and tokenization overall, I can speculate a bit that blockchain currently is the internet in 1994. It seems like technologies are alike, but technologies so dramatically change everything that 10 or 15 years in the future from now, the structures as the state authority, as social system, financial system are going to be dramatically changed, built on this system. So the so-called crypto economics, I'm just going to call it like, it's very important. It dramatically changes everything. Artificial intelligence, I would say that artificial intelligence is the king of technology. So basically, when you understand what the artificial intelligence is capable to do already, when you understand what the aspects are here and how to do it dramatically and faster, how can the people can help you to resolve the main technology. If investment, so in just share of a second to get the satellites, see the fields, whether they're all ready to harvest, whether there's some crisis in place, what kind of the yield they were going to gather, so you can buy the futures for the agricultural products the same very moment. And even before someone can actually understand something is going on, then you understand the possibilities and the new dramatic change and the new fundamental change, and how can you do a lot of things more effectively. You're frightened a bit, but the next thought that it goes to you, that the people who will know how to work with this artificial intelligence, and it's a hard task, because everyone say that even the language of communication with the artificial intelligence has to be 10 times more complicated than the person-to-person communication. The programmers will understand me. When you're writing the code, there's no moment for the dubious moments. There's no moment for the multi-sensual and multi-meanings things. So the tool as the human language cannot be used for the computer communication. And if, for example, if we speak about the very specific things, and if we speak about the skills, I do believe that the interface technologies, the skill, the self-skill of how to learn how to tell the computer what you want, for the computer really to understand, not to make it abstract, like I want this or this, it would be better if with that. This is very complicated, but it leads you to the unbelievable feedback. But not to get into details, the crypto economy and artificial intelligence are the two important spheres that in 10 or 20 years from now will change dramatically everything. Artificial intelligence, so we are getting a little bit too fantasizing. We see a little bit back. In 1968, we have the Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick, and you remember there was HAL 9000. There was this absolutely mesmerizing phrase, "Sorry, Dave, I'm sorry, I cannot do that." That was the breakthrough, that the robots can make their own decisions, decisions that were not programmed before. And all of these scientific magazines are now speaking about the artificial intelligence and how we should cope with this. And it's important that the artificial intelligence would not only follow the algorithm, they will be able to find their own decisions. So the question to you, Petra, I remember that your name is Petra, but I'm thinking, because you've already described main fears of yours, but let us think in a different way, thinking about the toolkit that you're using here, being here in the reality, but understanding what future awaits for you as a retailer. What do? Not to get frightened, not to get afraid of the artificial intelligence coming your way. Well, honestly speaking, the thing that the world is changing, we see more and more digital technologies coping with the biggest part of our life, and we understand that in our sphere, the effectiveness will be built on the three factors. And one of the factors was, first of all, the robotization, because there is a sustainable trend of robotization in place. The workforce is getting more and more expensive, and the qualification is decreasing. Thus, the wage increases, the qualification falls. And I do believe that the robotic technologies, the robots, are the way out from this situation, the main solution out of it. But for robots to work in a good way, for them not to be mistaken also, we have to have good management in place. And the artificial intelligence here is going to help us, is going to be very helpful. In our company, we have designed two projects, the robotization and the artificial intelligence, and we're developing in this direction. Even though we are those sustainable industrial producers, let us say, we produce the hardware, but 2 years ago, we created the innovation department, the X department, Department X, and we started to search for the problem solutions for one client. The client wanted their equipment to be smart, for them in a real-time regime to give the information what was sold, when was sold, under what conditions it was sold, and whether something that should have been sold was delivered to the needed clients. And accidentally or like non-accidentally, when you want something, you will definitely find it. You know, you will have this providence that will give you the opportunity to do that. We have found young people, absolutely young people, who have written a neural network for us that has already been tested out, beta tested in some known companies all over the world, and it shows the best results. So first of all, in order to make future closer, we have to find these young people, young smart people. We have to motivate them. The second point, we should not find the solutions for the problems that, like, we don't know whether there is a need in these problem solutions. We are now collaborating with our clients, and they give us a clear understanding of what they're afraid of, what their visions are, and based on their experience, based on their ideas, based on the knowledge that we have, based on the problem solving, to give them the solution of solving their problem. And we tell them the understanding whether this technology and startup will go. So, okay, the question from the young people for Vasily Khmelnytsky. So you've been speaking about developing the team and young specialists, young professionals, but we have the tendencies for the lifespan to increase. So people change a couple of professions through their lifetime. But how to deal with this moment, with the people who are not 25 years old already? Do you see the prospects for the development of your team with the people who are older than 25 years and who will change a couple of professions and fields of expertise in a couple of years? Okay, guys, I think I will ask you a question. Please tell us, if we speak about the future strong army, or if we speak about a super cool medical services, healthcare services, or if we speak about the ecosystems, what has to be done today to make it good in future? Who's ready to answer? Who's ready to answer? Please raise your hand, and our beautiful ladies will help you with the microphone. So, okay, whether we have questions and answers in place? Well, everything is quite simple. My name is Anton Helovashenko. I am the creator of the robotized exoskeleton. So for the strong army and strong healthcare service, it has to be the implementation of the robot techniques, because already we have the robot surgeons that can provide surgeries with the direction of the surgeons, of the surgeries who are, and for the strong army, we speak about the drones that can scan any kind of desert, Afghanistan, Iraq, any kind of, like, okay, do not describe all of it, but just like do not describe these things to the people who create it, because, you know, it can be a long list of it. Just give us an understanding of what you want to say. You know, you've said that this is something that can work on, but then again, well, I've meant something different. For us to have the super healthcare and super good army, we need to change the education. Who will join the strong army in the future? Who will be managing the surgeries in the future? Who will create the ecosystems in the future? We need to change the education system today. The education system is being dramatically changed in the world. You understand that in university, in 7-8 years, you're starting to study one thing, but when you graduate, the technology have changed. And I would like to give you an example. In Unit City, we have the Unit Factory, we have the university, the Unit City, and we have students studying for 2 years. We create new formats. We have created the new format of the IT professional. So they already been working with the practical knowledge. They start working with the cases. They need to go to practice in some team. They need to go to the apprenticeship for one team. And after these 2 years, they deeply understand what they're doing in their sphere, and they have the practical experience. But what is even more important things, what they've did. For the best students, we broke them into groups, and we're giving them the very narrow security course, the very narrow, very directed big data and blockchain course. And we want them to have not just alumni, not the personalities, but the teams that will be directed on problem solving. And we have a very good example, a very good success story, because 4 months ago we have created a school on big data, and now we have 4 months. We have an investor joining us. We have created the team that already can find the best solutions for the problem. And the investor, I'm not going to give you the direct figure, but they've paid 10 times more compared to the money that we have invested. This is something that is in a big demand. So when we speak about education, then we can not only teach people how to do, but we can already create the product out of them. We can give them the team that will solve the problems inside of the country and all over the world. This is the new approach in education. And, you know, I'm not the state and I cannot change the whole education overall. But, you know, Vasily, if it was possible for part of the taxation to give into the educational system, not to build it separately in unit city, not to build this like separate educational state, but how could you be proud if you had this possibility to dedicate it to the educational system? I'll be honest, even if we want to build up one school or one university, it will not change the situation. There has to be the state powerful program to do that. The most important person who promotes the system, the person has to understand the processes deeply. Because I will tell you that the young, talented people, they're now looking for the possibility to get good salaries. And I believe that the Ministry of Education, you know, that is not that, I don't know, attractive to work in the Ministry of Education, but I believe that the main aim of the state, is to create, the main priority is to develop the educational system. Number one priority. Now, I don't know what the technologies are going to be like in 20 years, but I will be sure that we'll have super strong army, good healthcare, and good ecosystem if we'll have a good education in place. Yevgeny Utkin, you wanted to add something? Yes, I wanted to reflect on the topicality of the artificial intellect, robotization, automatization, and speaking on Google and so on and so forth. You know, a very simple question of the new generation. You ask in Google, does God exist? A very simple question you ask Google. I believe everything is being developed on a spiral basis. So if the person asks Google, then tomorrow the person will again turn to nature for us asking the same questions. Why? Because the struggle with the artificial intelligence, fighting against artificial intelligence is inevitable, because artificial intelligence is also inevitable. And in this fight, the person will win, and the human will win, because the humans has to have motivation. Humankind has to have motivation, and the main motivation for humankind is survival. And soon, as a humankind, we will be at this threshold of surviving, because the artificial intelligence, with all of the positive things, what does the artificial intelligence do? You know, as a person who has been dealing with this issue for 40 years, the artificial intelligence just takes us the average. So all of these bastards, these crazy people, crazy talented people, the artificial intelligence makes them average. It takes it to the average. Thus, with everything that we have in place, artificial intelligence has a lot of positive, but the general population is going to get dumber. So speaking on what Ilya has told us about the music that is now composed by the computer, this is the pop music, low-quality pop music that gets our society by the TV, by the artificial intelligence and the media. Thus, the humankind, and as Vasily have said, and I really enjoyed it when you've said it yesterday about the technology and arts, when we had this performance like the people from the future all dressed in whites. I really loved it when you've said it, that the art is now our lifeboat, our life vest. When the humankind can survive and the humankind can be saved, because we will say goodbye Google quite soon. Goodbye Google will be quite soon, because Google is already time that have passed. Even the type of monetizing and capitalizing Google, as in all of the other big companies, through advertisement, is something that is actually ruining our creativity. This commercial and advertisement that kills it all. So I'm very optimistic about the future, and I'm very optimistic about these processes. Why? Because we speak on cryptocurrencies, we're speaking about blockchain. How did it all get up? How did it was created? It came up out of this, because the more developed countries, the more, let us say, fat countries, they have no problems. You go there, you get into the bank, everything what you want with a 2% of interest. And we don't have it. And it's cool. It's cool that we have that bad weather, and we're still playing football with a stronger competitor, with a stronger technique, and we will win because we have more creativity in place. I'm not saying it as a motto or as a slogan, but yeah, you can afford to have a slogan. The people will follow you. Now, what I meant to say that it's already in place. It already happens now, and okay, I'll just stop at this point, I guess. But speaking on the artificial intelligence is cool. It's cool, but it stimulates humankind to work further. It stimulates humankind for the most important things, for the overcoming of the spirit over the body. Because the body, it will live for this 120 years. But the problem is in here. And those problems, the artificial intelligence creates additional challenges and problems. And at some point, it will be a critical point. And our answer should be, because the humanity will survive. This is something I believe in. Zhenya, when you have said the overall, the society is getting dumber, have you meant someone peculiar, someone specific? Like, give us the names. Evgeny, thank you very much. Thank you for reminding us that we have the outer world. Because, we're laughing here, but then again, people, if you have been to Catalonia, the Montserrat Monastery, then you have seen what is the amount of the things that the people live, that every week they live a lot of things to pay. So in Ukrainian research, they show that people strongly believe some kind of, homeopathy or the grasses than the artificial intelligence. But we know there are different people in here, but we have to deal with the general public. And please, couple of questions from the audience. Who is ready to ask the question? Who is ready to give us an understanding why should be built in this country? Maybe we will have some question out of it. How should we build? The state is being resistant to blockchain. The state is very slow. The educational system has only been changed only slightly. We have a lot of cons for that. Everyone has said that we have a huge potential in Ukraine, and we have a lot of talent here in Ukraine. But it feels like we have just struck in some time loop. We know everything is good, but we cannot break free for us to all become Elon Musks. What should we do? Okay, the questions from the audience. Dear ladies, please come up to us. Please hold your hand. We've lost you already. Can I have a question? I have the mic here now. So can I have the mic? Yes, here I am. Andrei from Ukravid company. We do know that it's not a problem to enter the future, think about something new. The problem is how to utilize the past. Not only how to utilize the plastics, but all of the other moments, but how to utilize, it's a very important question, how to utilize the people, what to do with the people. Okay, we can sometimes utilize the people. Who is ready to answer this question? Maybe the person who has specific action with the hardware. Petro, can I address this question to you? Okay, dear friends, when we're now saying what should we do with the people when the robots will come and replace us, we're not afraid of it. We're not afraid of it because the current trend is very fast and developing. And our comrades, they're now leaving abroad to work for the foreign companies, and we understand that, we understand it's a problem. We know that we have the lack of people on one hand, but on the other hand, for the people not to leave out the country, we are now doing everything in our country to keep the people in Ukraine and working with us. When we say we're competitive in the international market for the brains, and to be competitive with the Silicon Valley for the best programmers is really hard, because this is the center. And our recipe is you should create your own centers, your own hubs that will actually attract people. And this is what we're doing in our, let us say, not provincial city, but the small city in Ukraine, in Volyn district, in Volyn region. We did everything in our power. We have people coming from many different regions of Ukraine coming to work with us. But Peter, tell us what it is. The possibility to train, good salary, the possibility to visit, Shatsky resort every month. What was your main attraction point? What was your competitive advantage? I will tell you that we have created unique corporate culture. Modern Expo is not about money. It's about something more. We really dream to make the world a better place, and we have chosen the retail as one of the ways to change the world for better. And when the people come to us, the talented people come to us, when they see it works, like for example, we've changed retail in Ukraine and we move forward. But now when we're launching cool products and we start to be competitive with the US startups, and we are already being competitive with the USA startups, and they know that you can be here, working here, enjoy your work and receive the wages. So it's not about the state, it's about the specific employer and building up this corporate state in your own industry. We have more questions. Okay, you already stood up. Sergei Pediko from the UBR Holding. I would like to support Vasil Khmelnytsky when he said that we are now creating the future with education. Everyone else should leave. No, I'm joking. But again, the question will be to all of the panelists. What we have now and what we currently have, it was the education that was built up yesterday. So shouldn't we just take away the state out of the education, just to get it as an instrument for the dissemination of the taxations for the people who cannot afford to have the straw? I will go on hunger strike, but I will not. I will try to work harder, but I won't get my children to the free school. So we will address it to Vasily and Ilya, because the people knows the startups that help you to mitigate the role of the state. Whether it is real idea to take down the state, well, the creativity, the new approach, the new wave, it's something that is very interesting. But let us sincerely take a look on what is interesting for the child to come to school. So we will build up a school and we will take the computers there and they will be playing games all day long. They will go to school joyfully. So even the kid, they should overcome some of the challenges to study, and sometimes it's not being done voluntarily. So there has to be the laws, there has to be discipline in place. We have to create the conditions for the child to be interested in that. Because if we have, working with our partners, for example, we have a boy who was running in front of us, and the boy falls, and my partner, he picks up the boy and he said, I'm asking, what are you doing? I'm helping. This is the child. The child has to stand up on their own. The child has to face this challenge on their own, but they will then know how to overcome the challenges. Another example, for example, when you are coming with the child to a shop, like for example, you're the father and your child wants to have a toy and the child starts to cry, I want this toy. So what do? We're getting a bit relaxed, and if someone actually says, but your kid is crying, why won't you buy this toy? And of course, we're going to buy this toy. You know how the brain works for both the adults and children. As soon as the person understands you can cry out a bit and get a toy, this is a problem. But if for the second time you will do the same thing, the child will think the same thing for the rest of its life, that you should cry and you will receive something in the end. And I do believe that the state has to use the new technologies all together with the businesses, maybe together with some kind of Western experts, because we have a lot of experts in the world. But still, it has to be made by the rules, it has to be effective for the country, and it has to be effective for us as parents in the education sphere. Okay, Ilya, your variant, whether the state should participate in the education. When you speak without the microphone, we cannot hear your question. We cannot hear your question if you speak without the microphone. Okay, you're not alone. We'll go to you quite clear. So, Ilya, please maybe add something or maybe just agree something to. Well, first of all, I wouldn't do any kind of dramatic change, because the experience says that the revolution will never lead to good. You have to evolution. The evolution is the only answer. But I would like to take a look at the two different approaches to education, the American model and the European model. The American model is private education, private and fee-based education. If we take a look at the university cycle, then it will cost you around $250 million. It's not Harvard, Berkeley, Stanford. This will be just the average education. And the first mortgage that the person takes in their life is the university loan. It can be comparable to a flat or a car. That's a lot of money. And the instruments, there are tools for giving people this money, but then again, this is the loan for the person in a very private and so commercial-oriented system. The main aim for the education is to show the future student, the future university student, that we will give you the knowledge that will help us to build up this investment in 3 or 5 years, to return this investment. Like if you go for the non-qualified labor, you will receive this money, but if you go to the highly qualified, you get 150,000, the difference in 100, then you will 1,000, so in 4 years you can return your credit. This is a very commercial, private-oriented model. It's super effective in providing the effective results. It is super effective in having the high quality jobs that will then create huge additional value. But there is a small problem that the Europeans do not agree with. They say that the education is not a commercial tool, it's not an instrument of the economics, it's an instrument of creating principle in new people, individualities, personalities. You have to give them the fundamental different values, to be a different man, communicate in a different one. The people who have graduated universities, they understand that the highly educated person is not working in a better way. It's an equality different person. They communicate in a different, they have different mentality. That was the Europeans say that this is the secondary aim for us, to give them the instruments to earn money. We will provide the qualitatively different people. Because we cannot speak about the whole of the academia as a commercial tool. So I do believe that if we partly can have the private capital in the university, but we are following the different goals. Philosophy-wise, the combination of these two approaches will be the right one, because both of them have some minuses, have some weak points, and I do believe that the balance between the private-owned education and state-funded education, this is something very important. If we find this balance in between these two systems, there will be the right solution in place. Okay, the small thing that has just happened. Two speakers sitting at this panel have reminded us that we have a very good reason to live in this country, in the world. We have the two centers in this country. I have the microphone already. Can I ask a question? I already have the mic in place. Well, I haven't seen that you've been given with a microphone, so let us start with this side and then we get to your side. Good day, my name is Vyacheslav. I am the senior trainer of the Motor Spirit Motorbike Club, and we're speaking about future today, and I would like to have the precise question about sports. Like, for example, I would like to create brand, and you know that the UFC brand, whether we have this future in this brand, or what do you see the future for the sports? So yeah, we were speaking about the artificial intelligence, but the very simple thing is sport. Evgeny, you ready to answer? You know, I've been working with sports for the whole my life, and I believe that it is a part of our life, and this is something that I've already mentioned, that this has to be harmony in our life, the harmony between the body and spirit. And I'm absolutely sure that the sport, as we have already been speaking about the UFC, and this is a super cool sports and a super cool project that has to be developed. And I'm completely sure that every person in this life will do sports in their life and making the sport more popular. Well, the only thing I would like transfer the marathons from Krishaitik to Trukhanov Islands, because, you know, but what about promoting the sports? Promoting the sports for the people who have never done sports. Yes, I am for the promotion of sports, but I'm against the, I don't know, making it like let us say the pop music, like whether like you work there, but the 5 kilometers is 5 kilometers. This is, well, you know, you have great future. You have great future, and as far as I understand, you are doing it in a very good way for the recent 2 or 3 years, and a lot of things are like the Bosphor Marathon. You know that the second team after Turkey, there was the Ukrainian team on the number of the people who participated, the people who actually got through the Bosphorus with the last 200 meters against the current, which was super cool. Okay, the question from this side. Okay, the question on the artificial intelligence, and I'm really happy that I can address you, I can address the dearest speakers, because the speakers are in some way defining the future for the further development of the technology. Let us say it like this. There are two different concepts in the world, and they're now defining in what way will the high-tech be delivered on. The first concept is that the artificial intelligence is smarter than the human brain is. So currently we have the specific tests in place. The technologies, the Google technologies are now coming up, whether the person cannot define whether they're speaking with the artificial intelligence or with the person. The next thing will be the creativity of the IE. The first concept has a very specific risks, like creating scenarios scenarios, developing the scenarios, developing, especially diverting the sphere of life in the specific direction. The second approach is the artificial intelligence as the aider, the helper of the person, of the human. That the robots and the artificial intelligence should not be smarter or wiser than the person is, than the human is, and they should follow the scenarios of the development of the life and the society whatsoever. So I'm interested in the opinion of our panelists. In what way do you believe the artificial intelligence technology should be developed, at least in our country? What is the most productive way, in your opinion? And the second thing about the education, I do agree that it happened in our country that the country is really rich in talent in the IT sphere, but what mechanisms can be created in place for our brains not to be drained, for them not to be leaving Ukraine, for them to keep on creating the projects in here? Okay, thank you very much for the question. We'll answer the last question because we don't have a lot of time. But Evgeny, well, first of all, we don't have the national business. We don't have the national businesses for many years already. We don't have borders in the world, so it's let us say it's a 19th century to say that we have some kind of Ukrainian business, domestic business in place. Speaking of not training the brains, and we do understand that we now have the competition for the brains and struggle for brains, but the project, as Vasily does, if we scale it, then it will help us to improve the self-actualization of this brain and self-realization of these brains here. But you should actually try, like, why did the Silicon Valley appear? There was some kind of the catalyzer, there was a catalyst as the state order. There was a possibility to reach the resources, and in some time the person could get self-actualized in full, to become a billionaire even. So basically in Ukraine we should create a demand on that, and then we will have it all in place. Speaking on whether the first or the second scenario, whether we'll have something else, like as I've already said, it's useless. Artificial intelligence is very good, but not a single computer, not a single cloud service, and all together, it will never understand what love is, what creativity is, what music is, what is the big music is. They will never do that. And this is our space, and we should hold on to this. Okay, Ilya Laurs, because we have to let Ilya go, and because otherwise he will be late for the plane. But Ilya, you know, like what? Can you give me the answer? Like what precise question? Like, you know, I'm communicating with one of the Stanford professor on the IE topic, and we have discussed it in the February this year, and he told me a little bit of bad things that for the recent 4 years, the people, they do not understand on what construct the artificial intelligence is thinking. So, you know, the second way that has already been said by you, like it is in place, something's going on, but we do not understand what is going on. We have already past this point. On experts, I am from Lithuania, by the way, and I do believe that this problem of the mind drain and the mind flow was very acute, but it has now decreased from 4 million of people up to 3 throughout the recent 10 years. It's a very significant number. This is a very complicated topic for us, sensitive topic for us. When the Lithuania opened the borders, then a lot of experts, they went out of the country, but now in the recent 2 years they're coming back. The openness of the world is now got us to the understanding that the people are coming back. The balance is now for the people coming back. It's not rocket science, as the English people say. When you create the system that will work, when we have the rule of law, the system when the rule of law is the main, when there is no any additional premises to do everything in dark or to do something illegally, this ecosystem is clear, comprehensible, and seen. The basic things, the so-called basic hygiene for the people will get back to work. The people have the sentiments, the people have the patriotic feelings. So initially, the person would like to work in their country, to create something good for their country. This is the main premise. If the conditions are very discomforting, then the person will flee. But then again, on the basic conditions, the people will get back. And I would like to say that I'm really proud for Latvia, because we're now working on engaging the people, attracting the people, but not getting them out. So, okay, your round of applause for Ilya Lauras, the head of the Venture Fund. If you have some startups in place, then he will help you to find the investment for the startups. He will support you and direct you. Ilya, thank you very much. We don't want you to be late for the plane. Ilya, thank you very much. Ilya is being quoted by Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes. So basically, his articles and his comments you can find in all of these editions. I will only just add up to your question, and I will pass it to Vasily Khmelnytsky. A couple of years ago, Vasily, maybe it was a year ago, at one of the forums you've said that you cannot be competitive with the representatives of the Google when you support Ukrainian students with a scholarship, and the Googles at the first course, they already offer them the written future. So in what way you're still trying to move forward in answering the question how to live in the country where we experience a lot of brain drain and a lot of people live in the country? Okay, good question. But I would like to add up to the question on sports. Sports is not only interesting and good for your health, it's actually profitable. The person who has 30 minutes exercises twice a week, his brain is working better in 15%. So the person is 15% more competitive than the person who doesn't do sports. So doing sports is profitable, and I would recommend it to everyone. Then again, on the brain drain and the people live in the country. Let us be very practical in this dimension. The people are looking for the new opportunities. In order to get them to stay in the country, what we should speak, which may speak about the patriotic feelings, about the sensitive feelings that we needed. If we need investors, then we should create the conditions for the good investment. We should create this condition not just because we need the investments. If we speak about the young people, we need to create the conditions for them to know why they should work here. And they will not only leave then, but the other young people will come to our country then. And we have a good example of the Unit City. And Unit City, basically, we're creating the new generation of people. We're creating the ecosystem where we're assuming that the people that will receive good knowledge, that it will be faster, profitable for them and interesting for them to work with us. We would like to go to Kharkiv. We would like to go to Lviv. We would like to go to the other cities of Ukraine. And I even have this big idea that in 10, 15 years, we would like to get Ukraine in top 10 most innovative countries in the world. And why I have this idea? Why I have this idea, believe me, I have been traveling to many different countries, but trust me, the talented young people that I have seen in the world, there's not enough of those people in the world. I have all the respect to people in Turkey and in Kazakhstan, but compared to us, they have other super qualities, trade, for example. But we are creative. Just take a look. We go into the Silicon Valley, and every third or fourth person is either coming from Ukraine or Russia, from Dnipro, from Lviv. You know, we even have our own diaspora there, our own societies there, but just imagine what will be if they will stay in the country with the knowledge they have and the practice they have, if they come back to Ukraine and start making new products here. So I believe when we're saying do not leave, we have to create the needed conditions for them to be staying here, staying in the country, creating new technologies, using the new technologies, earning money and spending the money in our country. Okay, 2 more questions, but once again, please do not try to be very rhetorical. And I believe that all of the things they want to say, but just to be brief. Alexei Zhmarinetsky, the political consultant and futurologist, the question on motivation. In the future, there will be a high question on motivation, the high question of what is the sense of life, not even what is the sense of doing something. So you've a little bit stepping up before the future. You're saying about taking out after the survival will, so on and so forth. You want to create a better future, a better education, doing different projects. What drives you? What motivates you? What is the existential motivation? Like, for example, Herzl is motivated by the moments of immortality, to be immortal. So why are you doing what you're doing? What is your driver?
In the name of this forum. And so far we haven't heard anybody.
Мы переведем, да. Вам переведут в наушники. Пожалуйста, Петр, отвечай.
But but can you hear me? If you can hear me, if you have the headsets, you might have been hearing me. Okay. So I believe that every person that comes to this world, that we have a mission. And if we have the missions, but you're personal, I believe that it's my mission to create the future and to make everything possible to get a future. I would like to, I fight because I fight. I like it. Evgeny, what motivates you? There's the question of surviving, and I do believe that this is the main question for me. And our planet is now reaching the point when the first thing that used to happen, some people were absolutely prosperous and rich, and the 2 or 3% of the Earth's population had all of the wealth of the world. It used to be all the time, but no one knew about it. But now, because of these technologies, we all know about it. We all know about it, whether we have some kind of estate and where it is located, what does it look like. And this is the big difference in the social ladder. The other problem is the ecology. Ecology, everything that happens all around the world. I'm running, I live by KIEF, and I'm running, jogging every day, and I see the problem with ecology with my own eyes. So this is the so-called social responsibility of the corporate social responsibility. I would like to say goodbye as to all of the other medias, intermediaries, everything that I wanted to say today. The main trend is currently that if without the intermediaries, you can invest your energy, your social capital, and you can turn it into happiness. Turn it into your own personal happiness. Turn it into the happiness of the people who are around you. And this is the main motivation for all of us. If you are here, you're going to the Raderska Street and you haven't seen there a skyscraper, but you have seen happy young people that we all have. And this is the main motivation for all of us. This is the main motivation for us to have, because a good person, a happy person, is the most needed profession currently. But Vasily, before you answer, I have another question to Evgeny, because Evgeny is the most inspirational speaker. He speaks of love, he speaks of, trees and everybody. But then again, Evgeny, we're dreaming big now. And you know what future you're heading to, but we still have the reality. And you know as how reality fights back. And how the reality, I have this, the inner waves, the inside waves that is, it have been created between the liquids of different temperatures, and maybe the swimmer has difficulty swimming. So how you fight this inner waves of reality, not to stuck, but to keep on moving forward. When people come to you, the people who do not understand what you're doing with, for example, searches or whatsoever. I was lucky. I've started my business career in '90s, so I know the dictionary, I know the glossary. When the people come to me with demands, I use it. Okay, Vasily, what inspires you? What motivates you? Zhenya says you come to Raderska Street and you do not see the skyscrapers there, and he takes a look at me. So, Zhenya, but you're not doing the development and construction there. I'm just joking. I'm joking. And, I know this is... I would like to see something nice, because in this city, I'm sorry, I apologize for that, but in this city we have the so-called notion, the key of architecture. So the key of architecture is something that is really terrible, but unfortunately, not a lot of people follow your example. I maybe don't know who makes the design. I do know. I know that your projects are aesthetic. So they're aesthetically nice. So if you have been creating some kind of building at Raderska Street, you wouldn't have been building there, constructing there something that already there. But Evgeny, Khmelnytsky will buy off the project. Well, thank you, Evgeny. I can boast of it, actually. If we build something that we are planning the number of the parking lots, we don't want to get into skyscrapers. But then again, I want to answer the question that was posed by the young man. What drives me? What motivates me? I do know that a lot of people are thinking that I will buy the first million and I will go to Haiti or Hawaii to rest. As soon as you go to Haiti and started resting, then you start to die. Life is constant movement. You should move further. I am driven by big projects, by big ambitions that change the people, change the world, change the image, that create a positive image. That's something that I really enjoy. So whatever I build, whatever I do, I see the new future. I see the new project, bigger, powerful, stronger. I love partnership, and if we have big projects, join me. So you had another question, please. Well, first, I guess it would be interesting to start the discussion about the future with the Buzz Allen. You know, we're only ending this discussion, by the way. But still, Buzz Allen has said that you promised us the gardens at Mars, and we had Facebook. So currently, the world is stagnating because the density of the new technologies that are now changing the world, that we had this dynamics up till 1915. There was a more or less sustainable dynamics. From 1915 to 1971, it was moderate. But with the start of the internet, that's given us the possibility to globalize the company that don't have the technologies like Airbnb, Uber, or whatsoever. That the technology, the companies that only get the already existing technologies, they change the world for worse. So all of the corporation, they are the sponsors of the future. But based on this global world trend and problem, how can we think about the future? How can we influence the future overall to fight the problems like the cancer or the problems that are really critical? So the cancer, problems with cancers, the green economics, all of the healthcare problems. Wait a second. So the future for you is one big problem. Everything you've said is with more on a negative idea. No, I'm not pointing out I have arguments for that. I have evidence for that. But we can speak of the artificial intelligence in a very long time. But the artificial intelligence is only about the service function. It's something that is not going to change the world. But we're getting to one big problem. Yes, we're getting to one big problem. Okay, let us not change the future, but let us shape the future. Let us create the future. Get creative with the new approaches. Like, for example, 3 months ago, you wanted to have a mask, but now you have at least like for $300 million. And you don't want to be Elon Musk anymore. So everything has changed.
You can see me. I want to take the opportunity to turn this into the Kiev Economic Forum, but into the international Kiev Economic Forum. I think one of the things that I hear and see is that you listen to Evgeny Utkin talk about thinking out of the box, and then you jump back into your box. So let me tell you some of the things as an AI scientist. I've studied AI since I was 18. I'll let you guess how many years that is by just looking at me, but I'm older than these three guys. The first thing is I've never heard anybody talk about the future ensuring that you're going to use AI to have a strong army. Democratization of information is about not needing armies, and if you don't have that somewhere in your head, you will lose. Another thing is, if you study the Roman Empire, you learn about what not to do. And as a Canadian, coming from the University of Alberta in one of the top 3 AI groups in the world, you shouldn't spend so much time mimicking Silicon Valley. It's disintegrating. You can look at all of the signs. So be careful, because what I know about Ukraine, and my grandmother is from Ukraine, is that you have this incredible, enormous talent and passion. That's what has to drive you out of that box. So when you talk about AI thinking, most of it's been what my colleague Andrew Chisholm said is magic thinking. Is you're infecting everybody with a certain kind of enthusiasm, but you need to change the education system to give them the tools. Ukraine has had an incredibly long history of stellar science and mathematics, yet nobody has talked about the word science here. You've only talked about technology and training schools. The person who left early for their airplane said something really silly about Singularity University. I will spend hours helping you understand why that's silly. He also said Berkeley was a private school. It isn't. Canada only has public Canadian universities. That's it. Right? So when you look for solutions out of the box, you must look out of the box. But Don't look in all of those same common places you think everybody else is looking for. It won't work. Go to Beijing. Right? Go to Kuala Lumpur.
Thank you. Thank you. Евгений, вы отреагируете?
Thank you. Now you have an international...
Практически четвертый спикер вместо Ильи, да, спасибо.
Basically, we had the fourth speaker instead of Ilya. Well, first of all, thank you very much for...
Absolutely right. You mentioned Singularity University, you mentioned Berkeley, etc. And new ideas nowadays coming not from US, not from Silicon Valley. Because Silicon Valley is a great tool to monetize something. But new ideas coming from our place. In Israel, for instance, every second guy, every second employee who works for Israeli company just came from our region. So thanks for your advice, and we are thinking out of the box because we are still survive. So.
Спасибо. Еще два вопроса.
Thank you very much. Two more questions, and because I do believe you will spend this time with speakers like this for a couple more hours, but we still would like to have two more questions. Who has the mic? So who has the mic? Like, you know, our ladies are working with you, so please. Dmitry Zuzula, Smart Farming Company, we're implementing innovations in the agricultural sector. We understand how it is important to formulate the products in Ukraine. We don't know what Vasily is doing for that. We are the residents of Unicity. Thank you very much. We do know what Evgeny does, but once again, the replic, what to do not to get this so magnet there in the specialists. So we understand it. We have to create the demand for the product inside of the country, and the demand for the product has to be formed by the companies, by the agricultural businesses, and the agricultural businesses are now doing it more actively now. But Petro, I would like to turn to you. What are your demands? Where you're heading to? What kind of products can be offered for you from the IT innovators, for you to use it in the future, for you to use it now? Thank you very much for your questions. And I've already said that we, first of all, we are the product company. We have been producing and we're still been offering the hardware solutions. But now we understand that the market needs the mix of the hard and soft technologies and solutions. That is why we don't want to, when I was speaking today about the innovation, about our own neural network for robotechnics, we create products. So when we say what Ukraine is lacking now, when Ukraine is now being the second in the world on the number of the IT specialists, what we need to be the really highly developed country, what we need to get out of the outsource to creating the product company, to create products. What we create in our company, what we create ourselves. First of all, we have the IT specialists that already have created the neural networks, and we're actively working on this. The next step for us, based on our enterprise, we want to create a hub in Volyn region. The hub that is going to be, first of all, the space for us to share the experience. We want to have these training, because one of my specialists for the neurological networks, we want to create the conferences, training for the specialists, for the experts. We already started to organize the co-working and the open space for us, and I do hope that we will present it and launch it in the middle of the next years when we will tell the experts, friends, we have the product-oriented companies with a billion ambitions. So please come to us, work with us. We're doing everything for you to succeed and for you to participate in that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Tetiana, there's one thing I would like to react on, because I'm still terrified by the question that was given by our international colleague. So first of all, when we are speaking about whether the Silicon Valley will fall out, I want also to tell it, because we have to ask all of the people who will flee the Silicon Valley to come to Ukraine. We should take them all. And it's a very good question. It was a very good question that you have posed. But I am the real person, but I'm standing on the ground. But the representatives of academia, they can speak it differently. Whatever we say about the future, we have to live in the reality. We're now building the foundation for the future. We should earn money now. We already have the harvest, the field that will then grow in future, because we won't have this and this and this in future. Maybe it won't there, but maybe it will be there. So we have to think about it. I really like this phrase, and I will say it once again. We will never get the past back, but the worries about the future destroy our reality. So let us be successful not in the future, but now, in this moment of time. Nevertheless, Vasily, the last question again to you for today. I know that at your desktop and working table you have the photo of the Prime Minister of the Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew. If we are mentioning the state very frequently here, and if we believe that there's a lot of things depending on the state, whether just only the political will was driving this politician that he got the country to this change, or the political will and understanding the mission, the desire to make the world a better place, not only the world's, or the world of a very specific person, whether this desire, what desire should motivate the leaders of the world, the one who are the masters of the destinies of the world. You know, I was lucky. I've been to Singapore 3 or 5 years ago when I had a meeting with Lee Kuan Yew. And there was an unbelievable meeting. There was a wise and powerful person. But I was surprised by the different thing. There were 3,000 people, very cool entrepreneurs in the room. And when he came in, there was that kind of feeling of respect in the room. And if a fly only flew, it had the sound of a Boeing. But I have never seen any other leader in the world, so the people would have that much respect. But let us take a look. He didn't build a country in 5 years. He built a country systematically in 30 years, but he had a strategy. And we want to have this magic pill. We have this magic pill or a miracle, so our country will be completely different tomorrow. We have to change the mentality. We have to change the approach. We have to build up this long-term strategy for 20 years. Like, we have to understand it, that when we're going to implement the strategy, it will change. The world is changing, and we will change also. And only in that way we can reach the goals, and we can reach the good results and the prosperity for our country. Okay, the last question to all of the panelists. Is it the right way to change country and the world, starting as Petro Polypiuk from building, like for example, they build hub, they make all of the conditions for their workers to be happy. So you're building your own space that then broadens to the level of the country. Evgeny, what can you tell us about your own country? So maybe whether it is, should we broaden the circles, or it shouldn't be just one recommendation for all of you? So maybe we'll start with Petro. We'll start with Petro and we'll finish with me. Okay. So everyone, each in turn, whether we should start creating ecosystem, some kind of space, your own company around yourself, and then broaden your influence. I do absolutely agree that first of all you have to start with yourself. And if we will stop waiting for some kind of magic pill, for that someone will come and change something instead of us, the president, the prime minister, whatsoever, we're not waiting for that. We're not expecting that. I change myself, my colleagues change. 3,000 people are being changed and in the real-time regime, and they also influence the changes in the other people. I do believe that we'll have this center of the changes in every region, in every village, in every city, but there has to be the people who change and change the space around them, and then the country will change. Evgeny, your opinions? You know, the two controversial things, but they are important, and important for every person and entrepreneur. So first of all, before you make all the humankind happy, you have to make the people around you happy. That is something undoubtable. And the second thing, that you have to do something that no one else did before you, on the level of the company, on the level of the person, on the level of the country. And if we speak about our mission, the mission of Ukraine in this case, then we have to, and I do understand that it's very, very loud, but we have to find the place where we can be the leaders and champions. You know, how I get my managers to work? Well, my services, well, first of all, we go through the job interview, and then we go to the company where they worked before, and we want to know what the people did. Like, for example, if we did this for the politicians, we want to see everything that every specific politician had done. Well, just imagine it would have been a completely different country if we would evaluate according to the results. Today, we are still waiting for somebody else to do something instead of us. And because was this last question, I just want to wish to all of us not to be waiting for miracles to come, but start doing these creative spaces and companies, creating these companies. And if you'll be lucky and someone will help you, then think about it as some kind of like incentive, a bonus. But in all of the other, it's just for us to make this country a better place. The presidents will come and leave, and Ukraine remains. Ukraine will be here in 5 years and in 50 years. So let us start changing this country ourselves. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of our speakers. Thank you, dear guests, dear participants of the 5th International Kiev Economic Forum. The lady has said that the future is a big problem, but maybe you're not aware, but the Google company has a specific direction that is working with the solution of the problem of death. So basically, death is just a problem that can be solved, that the people should solve. So we will see all of you, I hope, at the 6th Kiev International Economic Forum. Before that, let's dream big, let's do sports, and let's believe that life is a big miracle and future is a big miracle, but not a problem. By the way, we had an international blockchain art hackathon. The artists from 11 countries in the technologies of the virtual reality have created an animation film reflecting on the topic of future. And if you would like to stay in the room, we will show you this film. The film will participate in the international animational festivals and showing Ukraine as the country where technologies are one of the main emphases in the economics. Thank you very much. Thank you.